During the pre-meeting, staff and board members review cases. There's no participation by applicants or the public. Following the conclusion of the pre-meeting, a public hearing will be held at 6 p.m. Here, all cases will be heard, applicants will present, and public comments will be read into the public record, and deliberations will follow. First, we are going to start with the board member site visits for each of the cases. So I'll just go through them and let me know if you were not able to visit a site. So case 1, 1053 to 1055 Park Avenue. All visited. Case 2, 670 Beach Avenue. All visited. Case 3, 951 Park Avenue. All visited. 111 Douglas Road. All visited. 6 Arnold Park, case 5. 1151 Park Avenue, case 6. All visited. And the last case on the agenda, 121 to 125 Park Avenue, case 7. Okay, so all board members visited each of the sites. So now we'll go through any questions on comments on cases, starting with 1053 to 1055 Park Avenue.
I ask
Carol?
a question. Oh, sorry.
And then Karsten.
So I actually found this to be a really interesting mix of cases this week. So my question about case 1 is this. As someone who's been fighting for wood windows for 3 or 4 years on this board, I'm actually persuaded by the case that they're making that having fiberglass windows without those aluminum storms is actually aesthetically more consistent with the original design of the house than having the wood windows with the storms. And I can imagine us having an update to the preservation board standards where we say under certain circumstances, you know, maybe if they're aluminum storms and not wood storms, or the windows aren't unusually distinctive, it's okay for us to replace with fiberglass. But the standards don't say that right now. So can we agree, could we decide, is that within our power?
Yes.
Others agree that we're okay replacing these with fiberglass, and if so, I just want to put out there, it might be worth reviewing what our standards are.
Isn't that the point of a board, that we can always go away from the standards based on deliberation?
If you know they're adopted and control, but in this case it says the standards say we typically would not allow replacement of restorable wood windows, original wood windows. So the word typical is I think pretty important here. If you point to the case that and it's almost what Gerald was implying, that this might not be like most of the other window replacement cases you've seen. So you have it within your power, but like if you were to approve it, have some comments and findings from you all about like why this might not be the typical case.
Okay, that is helpful, Tom. And I don't want to guess what other people think, but I was just really agonizing over this, and it occurs to me, we've talked through the last couple of years about maybe reviewing some of our standards, and that might be a helpful project at some point.
Yeah, that's definitely something we can talk about offline and then maybe organize and figure out how we want to go about doing that. So yeah, that's definitely open to conversation on that. If you or Chris or anyone else on the board wants to send me an email to get that conversation started, we can.
Okay, thanks Chris.
Yep.
Thanks, Tom.
And Karsten, did you have any additional questions on that?
It was kind of along the lines of Gerald's thinking, so I'm okay.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, so case 2, 670 Beach Avenue.
Can I just ask, the applicant says that the beachfront is considered the front of the home. Is that true in this case?
So I had some conversations with the manager of zoning on this, and based in our definitions, it's one of those things that we have treated that way, but it's kind of something that we're figuring out now. I don't have a clear answer for you right now.
The reason that they did in the past are inclined or considering treating both landward and lakeward sides front is because there's a right of way, a city right of way.
Yep.
Between them and the water.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. It almost strictly complies with the idea of being the front because we define it with being to the public right of way. And
yeah, if you look
I think also second, just that, I mean, I've seen in a lot of other jurisdictions, like in the Finger Lakes, they treat the lakeside as front. They call it front.
To add to that, if you look at pages 8 and 9 for what Tom is talking about, you can see that in the instrument surveys, Beach Avenue actually runs behind and in front, well, I guess on the fronts of the house, behind where the lakeside is, and then the other side. There actually used to be a road in that right of way.
Really?
Which is why it was, yeah, that's why it was it still continues to be an open right of way there, maintained by the city. So there's a secret sidewalk. So if anyone wants to venture over there, there is the sidewalk and you can walk right along the lake in between the houses and the lakeside. And it is a really nice area.
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah, the only thing following up on Kirsten's question and that observation, I discovered the sidewalk through the preservation board. I love it. And I've noticed sort of all the utility structures are on the street side, all the garages. So it does appear, even if it does have two fronts, that people are sort of clustering their uglier side structures on the street side.
Okay.
Case 3, 951 Park Avenue. This case also needs to be reviewed by the Zoning Board of Appeals, so it's coming to the Preservation Board. If it was to be approved by the Preservation Board, it would go to the Zoning Board of Appeals. The two items that the Zoning Board of Appeals would review is one, the 3 units that are being proposed in the front yard, and then also sections of fencing that don't meet our fence transparency requirements for front yard fencing, which are being placed in front of it. Fencing in the city of Rochester, when it's in the front yard, can be no taller, in the front yard on a residential property, can be no more than 4 feet tall and needs 60% transparency. So they're putting solid fencing. That's not under your review, that's the Zoning Board of Appeals review, but just so you understand that that's the next step in the process that they would be reviewing. So an approval from both boards is required in order for the applicant to be approved for this request for permitting.
Right. And as the application says, it's 3 heat pumps, not 4, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'm responding.
Did I say 4? I'm sorry.
No, you didn't, but one of the residents.
In their letter, yeah.
I just want to be clear. Okay.
Yeah. You're probably very familiar with this process, right, Kajana? Because you yourself had to go through that process for your property. Any other questions? Okay. Next case is 111 Douglas Road. The structure that they're proposing, the new window and the 3 skylights, is a new structure that was constructed from a previous approval in 2017. And they're looking to alter that structure. A building code consideration, Juan isn't able to be here tonight, but a building code consideration is for the skylights and the addition of a window is that this is not unheated space. It will not be used for a habitable living space, which is a requirement under the building code for an accessory structure like this. So it's going to be used as storage and a wood shop for use by the owner. Anything else? Nope. 6 Arnold Park. Removal of trees, new driveway, landscaping. You'll note that I sent the addendum document that was provided prior to the 20 days of public noticing. It did not make it to the staff report package, so I did post that online separately, and it was added to our, it was sent to you separately as well. That's that actual planting plan that showed exactly where certain landscape plantings would be placed, making sure that everyone got that and saw it. Okay.
So I just had a clarifying question on this. I hear me echoing. Can you all hear me okay?
Now you can.
Okay, so I had a quick clarifying question. We had a walkway, I don't know, a couple months ago where they were going to do stamped concrete. And even though stamped concrete is listed as an acceptable surface, we concluded it wasn't appropriate for the preservation district. I assume, I don't know what other people are going to think of stamped asphalt, and we obviously don't need to discuss that now, but I assume we have the freedom to decide whether or not that's appropriate for the district, even though it's listed as an acceptable paving surface.
Yeah, the same deal applies. That, you know, the guidelines list a menu of, you know, potentially or, you know, permissible building materials, but you're still looking at, in this context, on this site and in these surroundings, is it appropriate?
Okay, thanks, Tom.
Are trees under the jurisdiction of this board?
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
The only time a tree would be allowed to be removed without coming to the board is if it was dead or dying and certified as such by a licensed arborist.
Yeah,
In that
and then
case,
even then, they'd still have to come to staff to get,
yes, they would
Yeah.
still have to get it permitted.
but it wouldn't come to the board, yeah.
No. Okay. Next case, 1151 Park Avenue.
Apologies to all of you that I'm filled with questions tonight. I know that's shocking to everybody. So 1151 Park Avenue, my question is this, like, we have really clear guidelines on glass block on basement windows, but I notice a lot of other, and the guidelines would say it's not permissible, but a lot of other homes in the neighborhood do have glass block on basement windows. So there's a part of me that feels really bad that this person's coming for the preservation board and we might potentially say no, whereas a lot of the neighbors have glass block. How do we deal with that inconsistency? How is this an enforcement issue? Is it relevant to us that so many other people have glass block, or should we just focus on what we think is right for the home and for the district?
It's the latter. So, you know, you're not there, if they moved without getting a approval. You're not there to punish them by weighing that, you know, one way or the other, but on the other hand, you still to treat it as if that they don't get anything more on the scale in favor of approval because of the fact that they went and put these in without seeking a certificate of appropriateness.
Yeah, Tom, I
So-
was asking a slightly different question, which is they have a number of neighbors.
Yeah, I was just getting to that.
Oh,
So the neighbors are not relevant to the, you know, to whether they're still bound to get a certificate of appropriateness or not. But part of your weighing of appropriateness and a lot of things is the setting and the surrounding area and consistency. So you could factor in that could weigh the presence of a lot of other windows similarly situated in houses all around the area. If that were true, you could weigh that. as in terms of being factor and appropriateness.
Thanks, Tom.
Are there any other comments on this one or questions? Okay. And the last case is 121 to 125 Park Avenue. You'll all recall that we reviewed this previously. Well, we didn't review this. This is a new application, but we reviewed a project at this property fairly recently. This is a change or alteration to the building that is an add-on to what was approved previously. So this new entryway, I believe that originally before they came to the board, they were thinking of doing this, took it out of the application that was previously approved. And now they're coming back for it again because they're sure that they do want to do it this time. Questions, comments?
Just to be clear on this one, and John made a good point in his letter. I didn't notice anywhere, unless I missed it, that they did talk about the decorative columns in the application. Did anyone see that?
Yeah, Chris, I actually looked for that specifically and I didn't see it either. So I actually think that'll be a really good question for us to ask tonight.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be a good question for the applicant. It looks as if from their drawing that they may be keeping that portion, but it's not entirely clear the decorative elements.
It looks like they're keeping that engaged column.
So question for the applicant to clarify. Okay, so those are all of our cases. It is 5:21. We will return at 6 p.m. For the public hearing.